G'day folks, one more video. I'm sort of rushing these through now because I'm going to be late to my motel, but that's okay. I'm giving you a third eucalypt from this Bookham Cemetery. That's a location on the way down the Hume Highway on the way to Gundagai. I'm heading to Tumut tonight, so we're well and truly out of Sydney. We're on the southern tablelands. And I'm just going to give you a third tree. I've done Eucalyptus polyanthemos and I've done Eucalyptus macarinca. And a third one, which isn't too hard to learn, is just this one over here. And it's got this sort of messier fibrous bark. It's a bit sort of plated, but it is a box. It's got the common name of box. These nice chunky sort of fibres. And it does go up to almost to the top of the branches, maybe not quite. And I just want to get the tree I was looking at to start with. And what you got to notice for these guys is their chunky bark and then their really long leaves. They've got these incredibly long leaves, which are sort of on the thickish side. This is the adult foliage. And this leaf here, it's about 20 centimetres long with a petiole about 5 centimetres long. It's got a nice thickish feel. It's pretty green, it's concolorous. And if we use our sort of thickish comparison marker, something like Eucalyptus capitulata, it's probably getting as thick as that, maybe not quite as thick. It's got all this leaf minor damage too, which means it's very bumpy, but it's got a nice green, long foliage. Then, I'm not kidding you, this is the juvenile foliage. It is unbelievably different. Now, I know some species can throw this. Species like Tasmanian blue gum, Eucalyptus globulus, that'll do this sort of thing as well. But this is Eucalyptus goniocalyx. This is a long-leafed box. A very common tablelands tree. It tends to like it up on the rocky hillsides, but it might get down to the creeks on occasion, but it seems to like the higher rocky hillsides, growing with things like rossii and macarinca and maybe polyanthemos. Polyanthemos is just growing over there. But that is the difference between the juvenile and the adult foliage. It's quite incredible. Now, just one thing to note, as I walk over to this tree where there's some good fruit, Eucalyptus goniocalyx, of course, has a very similar, probably sister species in Eucalyptus nortonii. So that one's called nortonii, and I had a bit of a battle between these two all over the tablelands and western slopes of New South Wales. Nortonii tends to like the sandier, more infertile soils, and it's got a lot more glaucous sort of hue and glaucousness on the buds and the fruit and the leaves, as well as the juvenile growth. Now, goniocalyx is allowed to have glaucous parts on the juvenile growth. It's got sort of a waxy hue, which I can rub off. But the adult leaves and the adult fruit and the buds tend to be not as glaucous as nortonii, and I reckon here I've found some really fresh fruit. And I have collected this here before for the Botanic Gardens, and I'm pretty sure they said the genetics came out as good for goniocalyx. So it's got this really beautiful, genuine fruit. They're about 10 to 15 mil long and about 8 to 10 mil across. And there's no hint of glaucousness on those. There's no sort of waxy hue. So I think this is good for goniocalyx. Just note, nortonii is a very similar species. Now, goniocalyx, it sort of means angled flowers or angled calyx. Now, that refers to the buds, which I'm not showing you. I haven't got any. The buds have got a really beautiful angled appearance. These are the fruit, remember, but the buds have got a beautiful angled appearance. They're sort of strongly four-angular in cross-section, and that's what goniocalyx refers to. So look for those buds. Look for these beautiful, thickish, long leaves. Not very wide, maybe, 25 mil wide, maybe getting to 30 mil, but they're nice and long, you know, they easily get to sort of 20 centimeters. Look for those beautiful fruits. Now, if we want to link everything to everything, Sydney species, they might look a little bit like Botryioides, Eucalyptus botryioides. They look like two trees I know from the Southern Highlands, Cypelocarpa and a stringy bark called Obliqua. But we might say they look a bit like Botryioides as well. So if you think Botryioides fruit, it's sort of what these guys sort of look like. They are on the big side, they're nice and big. It's amazing, the juvenile growth. I'm not lying to you about that. That's what the juvenile growth looks like. Just check out the tree I've got over here. I'll try and do this justice. Here's a nice goniocalyx. And trust me, it's got the same long adult leaves with fruit just up there. But all you got to look for is what it's doing back here. Whoop, nearly tripped over. And you know, it's doing, I've got some failing light now, but it's doing sort of stuff like that back here. Nothing like the adult leaves. It's got very, what we'd call strongly dimorphic, very different juveniles to the adults. And that's sort of a good hint for goniocalyx. If you're walking through a woodland like this, or the edge of a woodland, I just had a juvenile, yeah, I'll just show you this one here. If you've got a sapling, you know, this is what the sapling does, unbelievably. It just throws out foliage like this. They're in opposite pairs. You got to look for the opposite pairs. They are glaucous. They got that glaucous hue on them, waxy hue. That's what the juvenile leaves do, but as it gets up, and the upper branches of this one are dead. It's only this bit that's alive, but that's what it does down the bottom. Quite markedly different. And then here's the tree I started with. On the edge of the branches, it does this. Yeah, nice, beautiful, long, greeny leaves. They're concolorous. There's no hint of discoloration there. And they're not as bluey sort of green as the juvenile foliage. They're very green on this longleaf box. And look at the fruit. Just heaps and heaps and heaps of, yeah, I'll keep calling it Botryioides looking fruit. They're meant to be in 7s. I believe they're in 7s. There's one with 6 there. If I keep looking, I keep seeing less than 7. So I think they're described as being in 7s. I think Nortonii is described as being in 7s as well. 3 to 4 valves. Some fruit have got 3 valves, some have got 4. See that there? Yeah, 4 and 3 in some. So that's a beautiful goniocalyx. Now, I'm sorry I'm not showing you the buds. The buds are really nice to look at with their 4 angles. But it doesn't matter.